Have you ever sensed a storm brewing inside your own home, even when everything seemed ordinary on the surface? That evening in Virginia, as golden sunlight faded and the scent of roasted chicken filled my kitchen, I felt it a heaviness, subtle but unmistakable. My son Ethan, usually all-bounding energy, had been quiet, sealed off in his room. Now, teenagers and mood swings go together like peanut butter and jelly, right? Still, this silence felt heavier, like thick clouds pressing against the windows. When I finally called Ethan to dinner, expecting the usual rush, the slow, almost reluctant footsteps said everything. He slid into his seat, eyes down, barely glancing at the food. You know that moment when you try to break the tension with small talk, "How was school? See any friends?" And all you get are clipped answers? That was me, reaching, not realizing the weight he carried. Now, you might be thinking, maybe he just had a bad day. But then, Ethan pushed away his plate, looked up with trembling eyes, and asked if we could talk in private. Let me tell you, the emotional bandwidth in that moment could have powered the whole neighborhood. The concept here is emotional labor, the invisible work of carrying feelings, both yours and someone else's. I was about to learn just how much Ethan had been shouldering. We sat in the living room, just the two of us. He locked the door, a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. As he started to speak, I saw the psychological dam, something called emotional bottling, slowly begin to crack. He confessed fears of not measuring up, the ache of not fitting in, and a loneliness he'd hidden with a brave face. I realized then how easy it is as parents to overlook the silent struggles, mistaking quiet for calm. That night, as Ethan's story poured out, and I listened, really listened, something shifted. We entered a new chapter, not just mother and son, but two people learning the courage to be vulnerable. The resolution? We promised to speak, to hear, to love without conditions. Looking back, I see that behind every closed door, every awkward silence, there's a story waiting to be told. The question is, are we really listening? Let me ask you, when's the last time you truly listened? Not just to the words, but to the heart behind them. As Ethan's tears finally fell, I realized how invisible his pain had been to me, hidden beneath what psychologists call a facade of normalcy. It's a bit like a computer firewall designed to keep out threats, but sometimes it keeps out help, too. He told me about pressure, academic, social, even familial. That's performance anxiety. And trust me, it's not just for athletes. It seeps into kids' lives, turning every test and friendship into a high-wire act. "I didn't want to disappoint you," he whispered, and my heart cracked. How often do we, as parents, unintentionally fuel that fear by measuring love in achievements instead of acceptance? Now, you might picture this as a one-sided confession, but here's the twist. I saw my own reflection in his struggle. I'd been so caught up in routines, work deadlines, grocery lists, the treadmill of daily life that I'd missed the signals. In that moment, the conflict wasn't just Ethan's secret. It was my own blindness. So what did I do? I admitted my own faults. I apologized for the times I'd compared him to others or pushed too hard. Vulnerability, it turns out, is contagious. When I shared my fears and regrets, Ethan let down his guard even more. We built a bridge, one honest word at a time. By the end of that talk, something beautiful happened. The wall between us, years in the making, started to crumble. If you're wondering, does a single conversation really change anything? Let me assure you, it does. The trust we built that night became the foundation for every step forward. Let me paint you a picture. Later that night, after Ethan finally smiled and went to bed, I sat alone, the house quiet, except for the hum of the fridge. I replayed every word, realizing how that one conversation had shifted the axis of our world. This is what psychologists call a catalyst moment, a single point that transforms the entire trajectory of a relationship. Now, you might think, okay, so you talked, but what about tomorrow? That's where the story deepens. The next days weren't magically perfect. There were still tough mornings, frustrations, doubts. But we learned a new language, empathy. Instead of retreating, Ethan and I took evening walks, sharing little victories, big worries, And yes, our laughter returned. Here's the lesson, and it's a powerful one. When a child finally finds the courage to open up a phenomenon psychologists call disclosure event, the most important response is not advice or solutions, but presence. I learned that my job wasn't to fix Ethan or to erase his struggles, but to walk with him side by side. Now, you may be asking, isn't that just what parents are supposed to do? Sure, in theory, but in practice, how often do we get distracted by the noise of life and forget to really connect? That night, I learned that love, when expressed and shown, acts like a healing balm soothing wounds that silence only deepens. And so I leave you with this. The bravest thing a child can do is speak, and the bravest thing a parent can do is listen. It's not perfect, it's not easy, but it is truly the heart of family. If you feel a silence growing in your home, don't wait, open the door, start the conversation, and watch love do what it does best: heal.